I'm here to talk to one of the very first Broadway performers I ever saw live. I'm going to venture a guess that when I saw her perform live for the first time, a lot of you weren't even born yet. I took my first trip to New York City when I was 13 years old. That was in the very early 90s. And I got to see her when she was a little girl doing her thing. So we're going to talk in just a minute. In the meantime, let me just tell you a little bit about what this show is that I'm doing right now. I have had a variety of different shows that I have launched over the years. I had a podcast called Laura Heywood Interviews. I did a show called the Between the Shows Show for a while, which was an opportunity for me to hang out with my friends who were Broadway actors between shows on a 2-show day. I did a show called 42nd Street, spelled 40 Street, for a while, in which I gave 40 seconds of news about Broadway on a daily basis. You might have guessed I love a pun. And then right when the Broadway Shutdown started, for a good couple of months, I did a show here on Instagram Live that I called the Broadway Shutdown Support Group. And that was a daily conversation with a friend or another member of the Broadway community about how they were hanging in. I stopped doing that after a while because it felt like, well, there were a lot of things going on. First of all, the Broadway shutdown, while still remaining a major issue in a lot of our lives, the political messaging and the Black Lives Matter movement became a little more important or a little more vocal and visible, and I reconsidered what I wanted to spend my platform talking about, so I started doing more related to that instead of just talking about the theater situation. And also, every day was becoming difficult to find someone to go live with me for an hour a day. I felt like I was asking too many favors of too many friends at a time when we all needed a lot of flexibility and a lot of time to practice self-care. So, fairly recently, I decided what I really wanted was just the opportunity to check in with people, to go live whenever I felt like it, and to talk to people who maybe had something to promote, maybe just felt like a friendly face, never require anybody to prepare anything in advance, but just come to a friendly place to talk about how they're doing, a check-in. And so I created a little graphic, and I decided to call this show Laura Heywood Checks In. And so today, any minute now, we're going to be checking in with Laura Bell Bundy, who was Tony nominated for Legally Blonde. She's also a superstar country recording artist, and she's now a podcaster. She also has an incredible event that she's going to be producing and performing in a couple of days, and she's going to tell us all about that. So as soon as she joins the room, joins the broadcast, I'll add her in and we'll have a little convo. I'd love to hear from you guys in the meantime. If you have any questions, any comments, I would love to hear if you have voted and how that went for you. If you're planning on voting, what your voting plan is. In fact, I know that voting and civic responsibility is really important to Laura Bell Bundy as well. In fact, her new single is about that very topic, and her first podcast episode is with a Senate nominee in a really important race. So we will talk about that, and it looks like she's ready. Very excited. Hello.
Hi. Okay, I think I'm really crappy at the Instagram live stuff because I've been like looking at the wrong thing to join.
Well, you're here now.
I'm here now. Hi.
Hi. You have so much going on. There are many things to promote. But before we get into that, I just want to check in and see how you're doing. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling fine. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Are you referring to my having had COVID?
I am referring to the fact that you have a toddler that is potty training. I'm referring to the fact that you have a new album, a new podcast, and you're producing an event in 2 days. And of course, I want to know how your general health is. But the whole world is kind of in a dumpster fire right now. So I'm curious to check in with any and everyone about how they're doing in all the
We are, well, I keep moving around right now because the lighting is terrible.
That's totally fine.
I'm okay.
Super casual.
I feel like everybody is kind of in the same boat in terms of you know, different things going on that they're juggling and their mental health and everything. So I think we're all like, how are we really?
Mm-hmm.
Really, how are we of 2020? But yeah, I'm good. I think I had I had a moment last week where I thought to myself, hey, I'm going to have to make some changes on my daily routine and get some self-care time. And so I started meditating, and that's been helpful.
Yes, good.
And I'm really terrible at meditating, but I'm trying not to judge that.
Well, there's a reason that they call it a practice.
Exactly.
My practice that I learned was transcendental meditation, which is you're supposed to do for 20 minutes twice a day. And I am lucky if I get 3 or 4 in a week. And every time I'm like, I hate this, I'm bad at this. And I'm like, no, this is why we practice. We practice. It's a practice. So yes. I give that to you. You're not supposed to be good at it. You're just supposed to practice it.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing okay, and things are good.
Good. What should we talk about first? The Girls Just Want to Have Fun video, the new single, the podcast, the event that's coming up on Thursday.
Well, it's all sort of connected. Mm-hmm. The first single off of the album, well, let me just talk to you about what the album is in general and the whole meaning behind it. But it's called Women of Tomorrow, and each of the songs deals with a different issue that women are facing today. And so while it was all inspired from an event that I did in New York City at the town hall called Double Standards. So when I set out to do this album, Double Standards, the idea was that it was going to sound like a standard, but be music that was, you know, modern in content, and also have some like hip hop beats every once in a while. And so Get It Girl You Go is the first song off the album. It kind of sounds like Andrews Sisters, but it's about women breaking the glass ceiling, the future being female, all that we've accomplished, and women doing it all. We're the ultimate multitaskers, and we talk about that. And then the second song off the album is a cover of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which is slowed down and fully orchestrated and slightly haunting. And the music video depicts a woman's experience through an abusive relationship.
It is really chilling, that video. It's gorgeous. And I love the way that animation was used. It felt sort of like visual poetry to me. It's a song that I feel like, I mean, I have known most of my life, and I felt like I was hearing the lyrics in a whole new way, and just really kudos to you and your whole team for that, because it's enlightening and eye-opening and beautiful.
Thank you. Well, I felt like, you know, I needed to be very responsible about the subject matter. And the woman who directed the video, Ariel Zucker, is a survivor of domestic violence. And her intention, you know, in her experience of domestic violence, the bruises were bruises that people couldn't see. They were underneath where her clothing would be, on her collarbone or arms, and they were covered up, but so was also the mental and emotional abuse was something that people couldn't see. So there's an element of suffering in silence. But I thought she did an amazing job. And this woman, Claire Chin, who's an incredible animator, also animated. She animated the Get It Girl You Go video as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's like, you
That's
see,
awesome.
in Get It Girl You Go, we have all the female Democratic candidates running for office. And so she like put in the names and added like the little extras throughout it. And she's incredible. So
well, that one you also featured like so many people that I know. And I was
yes.
like, oh my gosh, there's Kate Rockwell. Oh my gosh, there's you know, like every Broadway actor, and then of course your two co-vocalists, your other two Andrews sisters, are Anika Noni Rose and Shoshana Bean, and to just see the whole Broadway family. It was like, you haven't lost her to country.
Yes,
you've always had foot in both worlds, but I always love you, like collaborating with your Broadway fam.
Well, this album especially is it's definitely not country. It's more jazz, really. It's jazz meets pop meets political statements. So that's like the majority of or activism rather. I feel like this album is definitely a soundtrack to the current women's movement, and that's kind of how I look at it.
Where can I get one of those t-shirts that the three of you are wearing in that video?
Good question. So the Votes for Women t-shirts come from a company called The Outrage.
Okay.
And they're on Instagram. Hold on. Let me see if I can let me see if I can tag them and give this to everybody.
I wonder if I can. I probably can't get it before I vote. I'm planning on voting day after tomorrow. Oh, great. Thank you for.
But you know what?
At The Outrage.
You can use it and you can wear them at any time because there's
there's
always opportunities to vote for women, and it's the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, ratification of the 19th Amendment, which is where white women got the right to vote.
Yes. Yeah, and actually, I listened to the first episode of your Broadway podcast network new podcast, which is called Women of Tomorrow. Also, I love that every episode is paired with a song. We listen to the song, we talk about why it's relevant historically, and then we get to hear from someone who is currently making change. And one of the very first things you said in the episode about Get It Girl You Go is we always have to acknowledge our privilege. We have to talk about intersectionality and acknowledge that even when things are hard for us white women, that they are always going to be infinitely harder for women of color and people who are non-binary and or trans. So
yes,
that is, you just started it right off there.
Well, it's true. I also think, history is written by the people who won history. Mm-hmm. And so often it's difficult to find women's history, and it's even harder to find the history of minorities, and at least depicted in a way where the white men are not the champions of that history. I mean, even in the formation of our country, we're like, yeah, we're the greatest country in the world. And I'm like, no, you raped and pillaged Native Americans and you took their land.
Enslaved people.
You enslaved people. Like, I think actually, maybe there's a lot to feel responsible for. And I just think I think that the part about the podcast that is the historical part is my favorite part. Because it's so important for us to understand where we've come from in order to know how to move forward and the attitude in which we move forward. Because sometimes having a lack of awareness of where we've come from, like how we got the land we call America, that the way that the pride that we have, this affects that, our arrogance.
Yes,
our arrogance.
Agreed.
We cannot be arrogant about it. And I think as women, it's really easy, and this is why I wanted to talk about the history in the podcast. It's really easy to take for granted all of these rights and privileges and freedoms we currently enjoy that were not a given.
Yeah, I remember you said something like it's sometimes hard not to just wake up in the morning and assume that everything we've got now has just always been there. But no, we stand on the shoulders of the people who did the work. And and as soon as we forget them, we are doing a disservice to them, to ourselves, and to our country.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the birth control is the real one that I think hits home for a lot of women, because most women do take it, or they have used a form of birth control. Birth control was illegal. Yep. Even a diaphragm was illegal.
Even saying, no, I'm not in the mood was basically illegal, because you were a woman had to go along with whatever her husband wanted.
Right. And I think, it wasn't until 1993 that rape within marriage was illegal in all 50 states. Even in 1991, Missouri was making differentiations between rape and marital rape. And just saying because you're married, and really kind of that was the deal. And the laws of coverture, which were which were adopted from English law and the formation of the colonies, talks about, which coverture really was, that when you get married, you have no more legal identity. Your identity is that of your husband's identity. So you're essentially his property.
Well,
Your
and even
children are
before
his
that,
property.
wasn't your identity just your father's daughter?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
was there ever an independent identity for a woman?
No. And even when you're widowed, when you were widowed, you did not receive all the funds of your husband. You actually received only 1/3. Was it 1/3 or 2/3? A portion. And then the rest of that went to a male relative who was looking over you. You didn't even have custody of your children.
We
That
still
wasn't
have so much to do. We still have so much work to do. And I actually think that that's an important element of calling your projects Women of Tomorrow also. Because if it was just like modern women, yay, look how far we've come, that's a way of being like indicating that we're done or implying that we're done. But it's like, we need to ride the momentum, stand on the shoulders of those women who came before us, and keep pushing to do more.
Yeah, because I think I don't understand why it's still acceptable for us to accept anything less than total equality.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason that we would not is that it's in our collective consciousness as being okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so
yeah, I mean,
that's
something as simple as how many people, and I think it's totally a person's personal choice, but you think about how common it is still for a woman to take her husband's last name. That is a relic of her being his property and being defined by him. But you take your father's name, and then
I didn't.
Yeah, and you don't have to. And I'm not saying that it's not a valid choice for people who want to. But there are a lot of. I mean, I've been to weddings in the last 3 years where people have said they will honor and obey their husband, and it's like, if I ever get married, I'm not putting that in my vows. I'm not. Maybe what's the lyric from? Is it from Annie Get Your Gun, where she says, "Maybe honor but not obey"?
No, right. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just we still live with the shadows of a lot of that stuff, and just acknowledging it and being aware of it, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I had a conversation. Oh, well, actually, it's really interesting. I think I see one of the Mamas Talking Loud from the Broadway Podcast Network. I just did their podcast. It's out today. Take a listen to it. But we were talking the other day about this sort of institutionalized sexism having been started thousands of years ago, before the Bible was written. And the Bible was written by man, not God, but it was written by, in fact, all the books that were formerly included were burnt or chosen not to be in there because they didn't serve the church. But at the time, there were many laws that had to do primarily with making sure that property was passed down through the patriarchal line.
We must be real powerful if they're that afraid of us.
Oh, hell yeah. Here's the thing. That you made a very good point, and I'm going to turn to this. Women birth the human race. We have birthed the human race. There's not a single person that does not come from a woman. And when we say, what came before, the chicken or the egg?
The chicken.
They don't say the rooster or the egg.
Right.
They say the chicken, and it was a woman. So I think when you're thinking about what came first, probably has a vagina, and it's powerful, because when you think about who has the ability to bring forth life, women.
Yeah.
That's actually, threatening. That's fairly threatening. It's threatening. So of course we want to control that which is threatening to us, and that which gets in the way of our being able to succeed, right? Survival of the fittest. And so, but previous to, I think, early tribal societies, in primitive time, it was egalitarian societies they were not patriarchal, and they shared tasks, and women were honored, and they were goddesses. So, just putting that out there. Always question the things you're told to believe.
Oh, ain't that the truth? Have you voted yet?
I have not.
Do you have your voting plan?
No, I do have a voting plan. Well, okay. So my husband and I are we're going to vote by mail, but we're bringing our ballot to the collection place.
And you know the collection place is not always the polling place.
Yes.
Okay.
I do.
That is so illogical to me, and I feel like they've designed it to mess people up. So
I think I'm blown away with how complicated that the powers that be have made this vote and have created such distrust around the voting. It's well, you must think you're going to lose if you're so.
But voting has always been like that. It's like the way it's I can't remember what they call it, but it's sort of the equivalent of redlining in gerrymandering and stuff.
Oh yeah.
That they've designed it to benefit certain facets of communities and to make it much, much harder for others. And so I just feel like the more we say, I think some people feel like they're getting beaten over the head with things like, what's your voting plan? What's your voting plan? But like, if you don't hear it until the 30th time, then I'm glad I said it 30 times.
Right. And, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, for me, here's the hardest part is that there's on the California ballot, which is where I am, there is so much other crap.
Oh, I know. I was hoping you were voting in Kentucky.
Oh, I know. And I used to vote in Kentucky. Okay. So I voted in Kentucky for years because I was a resident of Kentucky. I owned property in Kentucky. Even when I did Broadway, I was a resident of Kentucky. And then when California has a thing that if you're in California for over 180 days, you have to be a legal resident of California. So I had to change my
look at you respecting the law. I can appreciate that.
At me respecting the law. Oh yeah. But I do know a lot about what's going on in Kentucky because my family is there, and I'm a big supporter of Amy McGrath, who obviously she's running against Mitch McConnell in Kentucky, and
everybody has to go listen to your conversation with her on episode 1 of Women of Tomorrow. I was so impressed by her, and I knew her name because I knew that's one of the races that matters the most, and everyone around the country has got to support getting Mitch out. But I didn't realize that Amy McGrath was a fighter pilot, and like the best story. Do you want to tell everybody about the letter that she wrote when she was a little girl? Do you remember?
Yes. Yes. So she wanted to be a fighter jet pilot for the Marines. And there was a provision that said that women could not fly fighter jet pilots. They could not be fighter jet pilots. And there was something about being able to, there was some sort of training course that women were not given. And if they didn't have that training course, then they couldn't fly. And she didn't think that was right. So her mom said, well, if you don't think that's right, you should write a letter to your congressman. So she wrote a letter to her congressman, and she got back that, like, well, that's just kind of the way things are. Men are men, women are women. Here are the jobs that women do, here are the jobs that men do, and like you should just pick another career.
Right. And the congressman who wrote that letter
wasn't Mitch, but then she sent another letter, which was to her senator, that was Mitch McConnell, and he never responded.
Oh God, I misheard it. I misunderstood it and thought that she was literally running against the man who told her she'd never be able to do it. And I know. To make a campaign video with that letter he wrote. Wouldn't that be amazing? You know what? Not only am I going to grow up to be a fighter pilot, I'm going to grow up and unseat the jerk who told me I couldn't.
Right. I know. Well, I think that the jerk who told her she couldn't died. But then I think, but this is something to be said is that the senator that she wrote to when she was like 18 is still a senator, which is also
Oh,
says
geez.
something that is wrong here.
Yeah.
He is a person that has not been fighting for Kentucky at all. You know,
He's just fighting for his own power.
right. And, you know, so I'm doing this event, this benefit on Thursday, which is on my YouTube channel. It's a live event, and it goes to benefit the Domestic Violence Response Fund during the pandemic, because imagine, it sucks being at home, but imagine being stuck at home with your abuser.
You know, New York City has been sending texts out that says we understand that home is not always a safe place to be. Here's a link for resources. And I'm on that text chain. I signed up early for, you know, COVID alerts. And every time I get that, it doesn't apply to me, but I'm so glad that messaging is out there. And and I'm really I value so much the fact that you're dedicating your resources to this event on Thursday night.
I hope everybody can attend. It's a free benefit. I'm singing. There's a country artist named Mickey Guyton who is singing. She is the first ever charting Black female country artist.
Oh, is she the one who did Black Like Me? Is that her song? Yeah, love it.
Yeah. And she has a song called What Are You Gonna Tell Her that she's going to be singing. She's amazing. And so I hope you can check in. And then we're hearing from the folks from Futures Without Violence. We're hearing from the folks from ACLU. But what I was going to say is, so, you know, we've heard, most people have heard that Joe Biden is partly responsible for bringing the Violence Against Women Act to the floor in 1994. And that passed. But every number of years, it has to be reauthorized again. It's up for reauthorization. And it passed through the Congress, but it has not been passed through the Senate. And why? Partly because of Mitch McConnell. So when you talk about Kentucky and whether or not Kentuckians are being served by this person, more women in Kentucky experience violence than many other states. It's a real problem, domestic violence in Kentucky. So, and this is not just affecting children. I mean, women, it's affecting children too. So,
and some men.
And men too. In fact, there's a huge issue with violence against, domestic violence against transgender. And so, and what's interesting too is in 2013, domestic violence used to never be a partisan issue. It used to be bipartisan. But in 2013,
neither did healthcare.
They included safety precautions for LGBTQ, and when they did that, Republicans voted against it. What? I'm sorry, but I just feel like why? I just feel like that doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't make sense. So anyway, there's a lot of things being held up simply because we're in a pandemic, but this is a really important one because more people are affected by domestic violence now because we're in a pandemic, and it's harder to get the resources because shelters can't take people in like they used to take people in. Like, you can't just have 50 people staying in a shelter all together at once. You have to figure out how to have individual housing, safe away from their abuser, but also safe away from other people who could have COVID.
Right. Plus everybody who got some relief when their partner would go off to work during the day, they're suddenly together 24 hours a day. Everybody's tense. Yeah. So again, it's your YouTube channel, which is just youtube.com/Laura Bell Bundy.
Yes.
People can sign up now to get a reminder for the event.
Yes. So there's an Eventbrite that you can sign up for to get a reminder, but I'll also send a direct link to anybody who signed up on the Eventbrite. So on my Instagram page, I have a bio. If you link, I have so much shit listed. Okay. So you can sign up for the Eventbrite. You can see all the music videos we've been talking about. You can hear the podcast. You can sign up if you subscribe to my Spotify page. You'll get all the songs automatically. So
and of course, sign up for subscribe on Broadway Podcast Network.
Yes.
You have so many things, but they are all linked on your various social media. It's so funny. All these comments keep going by. They're like, "I love you, Laura. Laura, you're so amazing. Thank you for everything you do, Laura." And I'm course, Laura. And so I was looking, I was like, man, everybody is being so generous and loving today. And then I was like, oh, none of this is for me. But actually, that reminds me of this T-shirt.
Maybe it is.
It's going to show up backwards because everything on Instagram Live shows up backwards. But I made this Laura's a Broadway T-shirt.
Oh my gosh, I remember this.
Yeah, I either saw you one day when I was wearing it, or I told you about it, or showed you a picture or something. You and I go way back. We met in 1992. I saw you in.
Oh my gosh, Ruthless. That is crazy.
And your understudy in this particular playbill is Ms. Britney Spears. So big collector's item here for the music lovers. Wasn't Natalie Portman also your understudy?
Yes. Yes, she came in after Britney left. Yeah, and Natalie and I were pretty close.
I hear you not saying something else in that statement.
Well, I didn't really get to know Britney that well.
Mm-hmm.
She was kind of shy, and I remember her being backstage, but she was my understudy sort of in the beginning. And it was kind of busy for me. It was just like it was constant, right? And
yeah, well, when you're playing a child prodigy who's more talented than the world has ever seen, you got to find a kid who's more talented than anyone's ever seen. I can't imagine how much hard work that was for you at what, 12?
No, 10 and 11.
Oh wow, okay. I guess so. I thought I was closer to your age, but I guess I'm significantly older. So when I saw you in 92, I was 13.
Okay, so I was 11.
Yeah, okay. So
we're very, very close.
We're closer now than the age difference between what we are now feels much smaller than the age difference between 11 and 13. But I did meet you at the stage door, and you did sign my playbill. Not that one. Mine is in a archival binder sealed in a temperature controlled. I'm really crazy about my
mine are like
memorabilia
file cabinets.
But long-time fan, just saying.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
And I'm just so proud of everything that you've done, that you are. I love that you have created so much incredible music of your own. I love that you're still plugged into the Broadway scene. I love that you've kind of invented your own spot in the entertainment industry without feeling like you were required to go follow a path someone else had done before. And you're political, you're vocal, you're a proud Democrat in a country music world a lot of the time, which I think is not as common as perhaps in the Broadway community. You're still just doing such incredible work and forging new paths wherever you go, which is an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I very much do. I think really it's about being creative and wanting to be creative, and just that's it, I think when people are artists, actors, singers, they're essentially they're empaths, right? So we have the ability to understand another person's situation and be in their shoes and live inside what that might feel to be that other person. And I think that the same is required for being a songwriter. The same is required for being a writer or director. And the same is required for being a voter.
Oh, so well said.
And thinking about the world that you live in and what your place in it is as well, is having a better an understanding beyond yourself of what it is like to be someone else. And I think I think that my activism comes from the place of wanting to understand what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, and to be for what it's like for a person who doesn't have the privilege I have, and then understanding that I'm not free until they are too. So that's the bottom line. That's the way I feel about it. But that's my philosophy in life. You know, that's, and then that extends, you know, and I think it's an automatic thing. It's like, I've been an actor since I was a child.
Yeah.
I've been told, you know, like, hey, here's this character, understand them, become them, be them. And it's really hard when you are becoming other people and putting yourself in those positions to not have.
I'm just laughing because I was thinking about the character you played in Ruthless, who was like literally
I know
a
what
murderous
it's
child.
like to kill another girl for a part in the show. I know what it's like to be ruthless, really. You know, a murderer. I understand. Listen.
Well, you know, it's funny, like, we joke, but I also remember when, like, you were doing press for Legally Blonde and you talked about how many things you turned down just to audition because you knew that that was your part. And you like, I don't believe that involved actual murder, but I know that you can really relate to the idea that this is mine.
This part is mine,
and I will do whatever it takes. So
yeah.
I hope no blood was shed there. But
no.
Anyway, I really didn't mean to take you off this really inspiring thing you were saying. I was just
I think it's really
empathizing with this murderous psychopathic child.
Here's the thing too, I think is I've actually come to believe we're all capable of anything, good and bad. And that's because as an actor, I've had to play villains. Mm-hmm. And you have to go at what, you know, I've actually been some pretty big villains. So I have to come from a place of truth, right? So I have to understand it. You know, I have to understand that Amber Von Tussle, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess she is a villain. I just think that she's dumb. But I guess you can't go in playing dumb.
She's dumb. That's the root of her ignorance and her and you know why she's such an asshole. Because she's ignorant. Speaking
of Hairspray, isn't Marissa Jarrett Winokur going to be a guest on your event on Thursday?
She is. She's making an appearance, and she's amazing. And you know that Hairspray fan, like we are all so tight.
Oh my gosh, I know. Were you there for Julie Halston's Hairspray cast reunion thing that she did for? I don't think you were there, but it was like, I don't know, 30 people from Hairspray as a pulmonary fibrosis foundation benefit. And it was an event that Julie produces every year. I am positive you were invited because I know that Julie invited the whole cast. But
I don't think she did.
Oh, she must have.
I didn't get the memo. It didn't come to me, but because I would have been involved.
I promise you, it was not a party you weren't invited to. I can.
My grandmother had pulmonary fibrosis and died of it.
Oh my gosh, really? Did you know that Julie Halston's husband died of it as well?
No.
Well, I will connect the two of you. I'm sure that was a major oversight.
No, that's okay. You know, and especially like in Kentucky, listen, that's it. Like pulmonary fibrosis, COPD, things like that. I mean, with the smokers, the tobacco industry, coal, like a big thing.
Well, I'm sorry for that awkward moment where I brought up.
I don't think it's awkward. We're just chatting.
Okay, good. What I know from that, having been there for that event was that that show was something even more special than others in terms of casts and closeness after all this time. I will also tell you that another thing you might want to know is that a Hairspray playbill that Aaron Tveit is in will sell for over $200 on eBay.
Really?
Yeah. I've been making ends meet during the pandemic by selling my playbill collection, but I will never sell my signed Ruthless. But that is how I am affording to make a living when there's no work being a Broadway pundit. And who knew? But yes, the Aaron Tveit collectors are very passionate.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I wonder what I've got lying around.
Well,
I mean, like I said, I don't think I've done a very good job with preserving my playbills. And I've been seeing shows for a long time, just like you, you know. I think I saw my first Broadway show when I was 5. It was Starlight
Oh,
Express.
well, I saw 5 shows in 5 days when I was 13, and then I did a lot of stuff in California, like touring productions, but I didn't come back to New York until I moved here in 2005. So I saw Ruthless, Crazy for You, Guys and Dolls, Secret Garden, and a play called Conversations with My Father.
I remember
Um,
that.
and well, it had a kid. It had, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. The guy who was famous for American Pie and then was later on Orange is the New Black. Um,
Yes.
and he was the same age as Daisy Egan, who's in Secret Garden. And I've talked to them about this like little family of 12 and 13-year-olds that were all on Broadway at the same time. John Cameron Mitchell. Um,
Okay. I have something I've got to send you.
what is it?
So I was 11, I was doing Ruthless. And they had, it was an episode of Geraldo.
Okay.
And it had all these young Broadway stars on it. Now, I don't think Daisy Egan was a part of it, but Lydia Ogie, who was one of the alternates in Secret Garden, she was there. And then Jonathan, oh God, what was his name? And he was the star of Falsettos. He was on. Yeah. And then I was there and I sang. And then they interviewed us on stage. And it's just gold.
Oh my gosh, I have to see that. Actually, I can't remember Jonathan's last name either, but I hosted a few concerts at 54 Below. There's this, it's kind of like a club. It's like a family called Growing Up Broadway. And the first concert we did was kids who were on Broadway and are now adults came back to sing the songs of the adult leads from the shows that they were in.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and now Dara Page Bloomfield founded it, who was, she was Leah Michelle's cover as the little girl in Ragtime. And so now I've become friends with all of these little kids. I mean, all of these, some of them are actually, Kara Ashley Oates jumped in the comments here, and she was one of the kids from Mary Poppins, I think, who's now a grown up. Yeah, if once the venues like that come back, if you ever want to headline one of those shows at 54 Below, we'd love to have you and bring back some of your Geraldo cohorts.
Well, you know what we should do? If I do that, we should dig up this video and we should play it on the screen. We should play clips from it because it is, you know, I mean, obviously everybody took it very seriously then, but I watch this thing now and I'm like, oh my God.
Where do you have it? Like on a VHS?
It's on a VHS. It originally was on a VHS. My grandfather taped everything I ever did. And I think everything has been transferred to DVDs, and then now I have to transfer it to, you know, MP3s and MP4s. Right. But, you know, how I got started in the business was that I won a pageant when I was 5 and won a new car. I told this story on a RuPaul podcast. And then I go to New York and because there's this opportunity, you know, free trip to New York. My mom was like, oh my God, we're going to stay at the Sheridan on 7th Avenue and go to Lindy's and have cheesecake. And so we go to New York to do this thing about pageants on Phil Donahue. And it's me and a bunch of pageant girls, and I walk out in my little dress. And I remember being backstage before, and this one girl using glitter hairspray because it was 1986. And my mom, meanwhile, I look like a drag queen.
Was this before or after Jean-Benet Ramsey? Because I feel like that was
before. I looked, it was uncanny.
Yeah, that's
right.
Right.
Oh, I have pictures around here. Anyway, it was uncanny how much the resemblance was. And I know this is probably a little of an off-color joke, but a statement is that I always felt like I was a gay man trapped in the body of Jean-Benet. But so I end up doing this this week. You know, I'm on stage. I'm going, you know, doing my little turn and twirl, and very proud that I'm on national television, and I'm 5, and I'm very excited to be there. It's very exciting, and the audience is watching. Well, then the audience turns on us, and they bring a child psychologist out, and then the audience turns on us, and then I go,
you?
yes, and then I go to grab. It's awful. It was awful. And like my mom is defending herself. And then I try to grab Phil Donahue's mic. And he's like, I guess this little girl wants to say something. And I'm like, I like pageants. I like modeling. Anyway, so bottom line, it ends up being this expose. It was a horrible thing. And my mom was
like a viral video.
It is. I have the video, by the way.
That will also go in the clips of our 54 Below show.
and yeah, so after that, my mom was like, I can't believe that that's come over here. And so she marches me over to Ford Modeling Agency, and because she's like, hi, we sent in a picture. They said when we were coming to New York that you should, you would meet with us. And they're like, ma'am, you need an appointment. And she's like, well, she's Miss Pee Wee Hemisphere, and we're only going to be here tomorrow. So if you're going to meet her, you're going to meet her now. She was like, she is that Mama Rose is my dream role, just so you know, because I was raised by one. And I feel like I understand her better than I understand myself. So they let my crazy mom upstairs, and they end up upstairs. The children's department of Ford Modeling Agency ends up signing me to a 5-year contract.
When you were 5?
When I was 5.
That's like getting signed to a 38-year contract now. That's twice your life.
Right. So then after that, we were like, oh my God. My mom was like, oh my God, we just shined a turd. And so she went to the box office, the Palace Theater. I remember standing there, and she, being
at the
like,
Palace?
She was like, what's the cheapest and the best seat you have?
And wait, what show was that for?
Starlight Express.
Oh. And then you ended up starring in your own show at the Palace.
So the reason I'm telling you this story is because that day, which was the first day I experienced shame, was also the first day of my career.
And they've been tied together ever since.
Was the beginning of the rest of my life.
I really feel like you should do a one-woman show.
My husband thinks I should too.
I mean, if you the way that you just embodied your mother right now, and I could see you throwing on those big square glasses and being Phil Donahue, throwing on a mustache and being Geraldo, like singing a song from Ruthless, singing a song from Starlight Express, like you've got.
I have so many stories. I have so many stories. Like when we first came to New York and like where we stayed, it was like the rat hole, the roach hole, the Russian lady we stayed with who was like pretty sure she was some sort of spy. Because we rented her place out and we didn't have enough money to pay for it in full. And so my mom, she said to my mom, well, if you'll let me come back and stay a couple nights in the month, I will let you stay at apartment. And so one morning we woke up, I opened the hall closet and she was sleeping in there. Like, it was so weird. And then also my mom went to change the sheets on the bed and there was a bunch of, like, it was covered in condom wrappers.
What? This Russian lady was getting it on. Wow.
And then
this is
when
like
I was
the worst Airbnb ever.
When I was 8, we lived on 31st Street between Park and Madison. At the time, it was not a nice area. Now it's like very nice and like you can't, afford to live there. But at the time, we subletted a place in the summer because the deal is when I was modeling, I'm from Kentucky, so I went to school in Kentucky during the year, and in the summer I would come and I would do I would do modeling and commercials and stuff in the city. And I would train at Broadway's Dance Center and get private lessons from people there. And I had a vocal teacher. And that was everybody's like, what school did you go to for theater? I was like, I don't know, the summer kids school at Broadway Dance Center and beyond. And so
I just picture you like you at 5 in your Jean-Benet Ramsey outfit, like smoking a cigarette and being like, I'm from the School of Hard Knocks, kid.
Right. Oh, and I got to tell you too, one of my very first auditions for musical theater was Les Mis when I was 6. And I mean, my mom like brought me there looking like a freaking drag queen. I had
Cosette does not have lash extensions.
Right. Like took me to the tanning bed and was like, Cosette would totally wear this. Cosette, this is what Cosette wears.
Oh my gosh. Maybe young.
Definitely wearing the thick. I'm like, Mom, no, Fontaine is the whore. Cosette is the orphan.
But don't you think that like the Thenardiers might have put young Eponine like in
100%. 100%. Some shit went down with Eponine we don't even know about.
Poor little Ep.
She's
gone
like
too soon. Little fall of rain.
Yeah, man. Oof.
But
anyway,
I want you to know that when I set this up with the publicist who's working on Broadway Podcast Network, amongst other things, I was like, I won't keep Laura long. It'll be 10 or 15 minutes. So if you have to go, we're actually probably going to get kicked off of Instagram.
Well, here's the thing. I'll tell you. I have to go to the bathroom. So it's probably a good time to get off the phone because I have to pee.
Well, this has been so much fun. I'm really glad we were able to share all the information about all of your projects. And then doing the impression of your mother is like, I feel like this is a demo tape we need to send out to people writing sitcoms, to, the production team at all of the independent venues to help you produce your one-woman show. And it certainly is a nice little tease to know that I have more of you to watch on Thursday nights at youtube.com/Laura Bell Bundy.
Yes, please. Someone says, tell us more stories sometime. I will be happy to tell you more stories sometime.
I'm also really excited that the Mamas Talking Loud joined us because I'm a big fan of their podcast.
Oh, it's an amazing podcast. You guys got to check it out. Especially
for more than just mamas. I don't have children and I enjoy, so it doesn't have to be just for mamas.
That's true.
Hey, my sister's watching. She was there with me at Ruthless.
Really? Which one is your sister?
Karen Heywood.
Hey, Karen.
Too.
Hey, Karen. Hey. All right,
and
guys.
I'm often known as Laura Hay. So.
Laura Hay?
Yeah, because our last name is Heywood. So.
Oh, I know that. I know your last
from
name.
This shirt.
Heywood. I need that shirt.
I'll send you one if you want one.
No, I want it. I want it.
Okay.
All right, guys. I'm gonna go pee. If you want to get the music, it's available on iTunes and Spotify. There's 2 songs out already. There's going to be another one out in January, but most importantly, would love to have you join the live event that is happening on Thursday. It's free. It's a free benefit. If you choose to donate, you can. If you choose not to, that's totally fine too. We just love to have you there. And maybe it's something else to think about that isn't the election.
Exactly. And
and vote.
All right, thank you so much. It's been a blast. I'm happy to see you again after all these years, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, Laura.
Thanks, everybody. We'll check in again soon.